Welcome to Billionaire Romance Audiobooks. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. It helps more than you know and is the best way to stay up to date on our latest releases. When you subscribe, you'll also get notified when we release new videos. We also love hearing from our listeners. If you have any suggestions for future audiobooks, please feel free to leave a comment below. Or if you want to say hi, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great day. Subscribe to this channel today and join the Billionaire Romance Audiobooks family.
A Kiss of Winter. A Second Chance Christmas Romance. Book 3 in the Dreams Fulfilled series. By Michelle Love. Narrated by Google Play Auto-Narrated Voice. Audio copyright 2023 BFA Publishing. Note: we edited this romance audiobook to comply with the YouTube content guidelines. If you want to get the unedited version, you can grab a copy from Google Play Books. Blurb.
Once upon a time, I was a complete idiot, too damn young and inexperienced and cocky to boot. And because of that, I messed up my chances with the woman I've always loved. Unrequited love is never easy, but it's a whole hell of a lot harder when it includes a successful business and a lifelong friendship. Even years after I blew my chance, I just can't let go of the feeling that Andy is the only one for me. I never want to see Andy hurt again, so when she comes down with a mysterious winter-related illness, all my protective instincts come creeping in. I've already lost this woman once, and I'll be damned if it happens again. Now I just need to make her see that we're worth a second chance, and if I need to let little Christmas magic run its course to make that happen, well then, who am I to say that miracles don't exist?
Andy.
Good morning, sunshine. David strolls in through the connecting door between our suites and pulls the curtains aside on all the windows, sending thin winter sunlight trickling into the room. He's got that shit-eating grin on his handsome face that used to annoy me back when we were married. I lob my pillow at him, eyes bleary, but my aim is still perfect after 5 years. It bounces off his chest and he looks down, then snorts and scoops it up. I roll over and bury my face in my remaining pillow. Go away. It's freezing and before 9. Yes, and this is the Catskills. People start their days at dawn here. We're missing chances for interviews. Besides, it was your idea for us to spend our Christmas up here. The slight edge to his voice reminds me of how hard it had been to sell him on this investigation when I first learned of the events transpiring in this town. Our partnership as paranormal investigators, just like our friendship, survived our disastrous 6-month marriage with little more than some awkwardness and regret. But here I've had to live with him again for over a week and a half, and it's reminding me of why we broke up. Yes, I know. Just give me half an hour. I have also always hated that he's a morning person. Nah. You decided to spend half the night driving over to the county hospital to chase down those frostbite cases, and you straight up told me that you didn't want us knocked off schedule because of it. He comes over and crouches down beside the bed, so his face is level with mine. So get your cute body up. We have a mystery to solve. He was right. And it wasn't just any mystery either. It was the paranormal event of a lifetime, a genuine Christmas miracle that started almost 2 weeks ago with thousands of witnesses. It was an event so enormous that even news and social media have noticed and have been rationalizing and celebrating it instead of denying it outright. Within a week of the first sighting on December 23rd, Phoenicia, New York, had already gained the nickname Mistletoe Village, becoming a destination for romantic-minded snow bunnies from all over the East Coast and beyond. The bed and breakfasts have filled up, people are renting out spare rooms in their houses for some extra cash, and over 100 couples have gotten engaged here so far. Tourists, reporters, bloggers, and curiosity seekers are mingling with the local population, filling up the restaurants, cafes, and bars as the early January chill drives them inside. I can hear the rustle and chatter of the crowd down on the street, even through my double-glazed window. Damn it, he's right. I sigh into my bedding and roll over to look at David. He's cute, both in personality and looks, and I really like the guy. But I also find him really annoying at times, which is part of why the whole marriage thing never worked out. We're still best friends though, and I wouldn't be able to run Estrella Paranormal without him. He's the tech half to my lore half. While I'm doing interviews, conducting research, and recording EVPs, he's checking for magnetic fields, seeking rational explanations, and making sure that whatever we come up with can't be easily debunked. He also handles the technical and scheduling details, making sure we can get where we need to be and do what we need to do, and do it on time. And that's why I'm waking up on January the 3rd in a bed and breakfast in the Catskills, with my ex-husband in my face. Damn it, Dave, I grumble, but I know he's right. David Delgado, tech genius and occasional jerk who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, flops into a bedside chair as I drag myself out of bed. He's the classic tall, dark, and handsome type with thick, coffee-colored hair, big brown eyes, and an easy smile. To top it off, I know he's got an amazing body under that turtleneck and jeans, but I don't let myself think about that anymore. When he was younger, he was almost cherubic looking. But he was also a bit immature pain back then, so it was a trade-off. And that brings us to reason number 2 that we should never have married. We were too damn young to know what we were doing, in and out of bed. It would have helped if David had taken instruction better, but I have my own faults too. I rub my eyes, blinking several times. Okay. My notes from last night's interviews are on the laptop. Take a look at them while I clean up. I push myself out of bed as he gets up to go for my laptop case. As I walk past him, I hear his breath catch. Still half asleep, I haven't pulled my sleeping shirt down to cover where it's ridden up my thighs and back. I grumble and tug the hem down over my ass, remembering how I used to love turning him on by accident like that. Why yeah. Okay, he replies like a startled kid. I can't help but smile a little. Okay, well maybe I still like it some. My marriage to David was the biggest and most regrettable mistake I've made in my life. We were too young, in our early 20s, and though David is sweet and would never hurt me, he was even more in over his head than I was. He was too immature and irritating to live with, and it sometimes felt like I was helping to raise my younger brother all over again. As I scrub off in the shower with the door open, I hear him clicking away on my laptop. I'm really starting to think someone is messing with our investigation. I hear him sigh. That Jack Whitman guy? I think about Whitman as I lather up my hair. He's a local, and a world-class skier, snow sculptor, and billionaire playboy with an eccentric father. Mischievous, creative, and, I'm starting to suspect, probably the reason why we're here. He also happens to be ridiculously attractive in that slim, toned, sleek way that is almost androgynous. With his pale white skin, black hair, his father's brilliant blue eyes, and one of those smiles that light up the street, it's a real shame that he's even less mature than David. Whitman and whoever else is conspiring with him to do this. There is absolutely no way that mistletoe could just appear hanging just about everywhere in the entire town, with new sprigs somehow popping up every night, without an awful lot of help. I hear more typing. You're presuming that nothing paranormal is going on. I have soap in my eyes. Crap. I bend into the spray to rinse it out, and then rinse out my hair, enjoying the hot water on my skin. New York winters leave a chill that's hard to get out of your bones, but a shower or a soak does the trick, even if only for a short while. It's my job to presume that nothing paranormal is going on. He taps a few keys. Did you actually find out anything from the nurses? They wouldn't let me record, but I got some follow-ups. The Marysville Hospital serves this entire area, and until they get an accident or a bad bug going around, they're usually pretty quiet. I turn the water off and stand in the steam, rubbing conditioner into my thick auburn hair. So the frostbite thing stood out? Not for that in particular. They get frostbite cases every year, and there was just a big storm. But no. I was pretty much able to verify that it was the two troublemakers we've been tracking though. I massage the conditioner through my hair, keeping half an eye on the open door through the steamed-up shower glass. I've caught David peeking before. How did you manage that? Bribery. He sounds intrigued. Not really. They didn't violate anyone's privacy by actually naming names. But their description of that redhead diva who claimed she got frostbite on her nose out of nowhere and then exploded when the surgeon said amputation might be necessary sounds a lot like Andrea Case. And that drunk biker who was in here twice in 3 days for frostbite and for getting maced by the other patient sounds an awful lot like Daniel Gates. That's a good point. More typing. Oh great, you finished the write-up of your interview with them last night? Yeah, I wanted to get it down in writing while it was fresh. I hate interviews where they won't let me record. This is 8 pages. No wonder you're worn out. What time did you finally get to sleep? Now he sounds worried, which makes me feel a bit guilty. I shake it off after a moment. I wasn't looking at the clock. TCH. You work too hard. I hear one of the interviews start to play, the one with Jack. Alright, so, I hear my own voice, which sounds tinny and strange in recordings. I try to ignore that as I listen. Please state your name, age, hometown, and occupation for the record. Jack's laughing voice takes over. My name's Jack Frost, as I told you before. I'm ageless. I live at the North Pole with my father St. Nicholas, and my job is bringing the fall colors and the winter frosts. A long, awkward pause. I understand that you're in character for the kids and all, but... Oh, is that what I'm doing? His tone teases me. Does this guy have to troll us each and every time that we get him on camera? Delgado grumbles. Hurry up. I want to go over this stuff with you before we grab some breakfast. I'm not entirely sure that he is trolling us, I say thoughtfully as I rinse out my hair. He does have a weird sense of humor, but so does his dad, and these are the guys who made sure the local food bank had a surplus right before the holiday. Do you think he and his dad are delusional? He asks seriously, stopping the video. I don't know. But if they are, it's the most benign delusion ever. As far as I can tell, pretty much everyone up here loves them, even if nobody past the age of 5 believes that they're anything but ordinary people. I finish the shower and close the door most of the way, so that I can towel off and dress. Okay, yeah. I admit, his dad is pretty cool. But I don't trust this guy. He hesitates, then says slowly, he's wasting our time. And he keeps hitting on you. I stop short in the middle of pulling on my long underwear, hearing a faint alarm bell go off in the back of my head. He's not wrong, Jack is a flirt. That's not the problem. The problem is that after all this time, David should know better than to be jealous. And yet I'm hearing that tone in his voice. It takes everything I have to keep the awkward laugh out of my own voice as I finish dressing. He hits on every woman who's over the age of 18 and isn't wearing a ring. What's your point? Another pause. Oh. He sounds a little calmer suddenly, and I roll my eyes. Well, he just annoys me. Yeah, well, he's a bit immature, and immaturity is annoying. So is jealousy, especially when it's coming from a guy who had his chance and blew it. Give me a minute, and let's go over the new stuff before breakfast. I have to get things back on track. If David is starting to think of me as his again, if he's getting jealous, then we have a problem. We're on the brink of proving the paranormal origin of an ongoing town-wide phenomenon. I don't have time for David's romantic regrets. Or my own.
David.
So according to the nurses, the biker was recovering from hypothermia and mild frostbite when he was picked up by state police. I lean toward the laptop screen with Andy beside me, trying to ignore how nice her freshly washed hair smells. I really don't have time for inconvenient boners. The biggest mistake I have ever made in my life, contrary to the beliefs of my family, wasn't my getting into paranormal investigation when I'm not even a believer myself. And it also wasn't the time I blew $100,000 of Dad's money in Monaco when I was 20. It wasn't even when I let a former partner take one of my inventions as his severance, a patent that turned out to be worth millions. It was, quite simply, letting the woman of my dreams slip through my fingers. Andromeda, Andy Carter really is the whole package. Smart, ambitious, imaginative, hot, pretty, and sweet. At 16, I wanted to get into her pants so badly that I couldn't breathe, but of course, she put me off. At 20, I finally did get into her pants, and I loved every minute of it. Not that there were ever too many minutes to savor at one time. But Andy, well, she never seemed to enjoy it as much as I did. Which always frustrated me. At the time, I thought there was something wrong with her when she didn't like exactly what I liked in bed, when I liked it. But I was the typical selfish 20-year-old guy back then, with my brain mostly located at the end of my shaft. I know better now, but it's too late. Our problems in bed were just one of many other issues that drove us apart. 8 months after I made love to her for the first time, she packed her bags and left. We patched things up enough to keep Estrella together, as well as our friendship. But I still wonder to this day what would have happened if we'd waited until we both had grown up more. Would it have lasted? Would it last if we tried again now? How did you find out that Andrea Case was the one who maced him? I ask Andy as I look up from her notes. They got into a fistfight in the waiting room. She winces as she speaks, and I stifle an outburst of laughter. Oh man, this town. I rub my face and look back at her notes. Well, that does it for the written stuff. Let's have a look at the rest of yesterday's interviews and then grab some breakfast. Sounds good to me. I'm starving. She's sitting next to me, brushing her hair out. The rich smell of her hair mixes with the fruity shampoo and tickles my nostrils. As much as I love the smell of her, I have to keep reminding myself that she's not mine. Some days I'm fine with that. Others, it's like a Greek tragedy that I simply can't escape, leaving me wondering why I wasn't prescient enough to see the writing on the wall back then. Right now, being so close to Andy makes me want to slip an arm around her and beg her to take me back. Too bad it's too early for a drink. So what's our amended timeline? She asks as she pulls up a few interviews. I bring the timeline file up on my smartphone. December 23rd at dawn, the mistletoe appears. Nobody sees who put it up or who keeps replacing it when it's taken down. Mistletoe is everywhere, including private houses and the interior of the church. The night of the 25th, a snowstorm hits, damaging outdoor decorations and blacking out half the town. When we dig out the next morning, the mistletoe had stayed up. Either it resisted wind that ripped branches off trees in a few places, or somehow someone put it all back up after the storm without being seen or leaving tracks in the snow. It sounds absolutely ridiculous to me, except that I saw that last part with my own eyes. The stuff simply doesn't stay down for long. The pastor, who keeps clearing his grounds of mistletoe since he doesn't want people sucking face in the church graveyard, complained about it to me. He also mentioned, once again, that when it's replaced, no footprints are left in the snow. That one detail, that one inexplicable thing, is what's kept me here, even though this could be one of our most boring investigations yet. All we do most of the day is push through crowds and plod around chasing down rumors about what's happening. The mistletoe keeps reappearing over new snow with no footprints. How bizarre is that? Is there any chance that the whole town is in on it? Maybe it's just a stunt to create this tourism boom? I ask slowly and thoughtfully. Or maybe as a little Christmas magic for the kids? She shakes her head after a brief thoughtful silence. No. It's created too much disruption. And because of how people react to it, everyone we interviewed seems baffled. If everyone was in on it, then a lot of the townspeople would have to be amazing amateur actors. I sit back, tapping my lips with my finger. The motive is plausible, but the execution. She's right. It would be impossible, or nearly so. One of the Whitmans, or someone else, must have hired a small team of people who have been sneaking around. Or something. I'm not crediting anything supernatural. Not yet. Okay, we already have the transcripts of Jack's comments. She leans forward slightly as she brings his interview recording back up. It stopped in the middle, frozen on a single frame of his irritatingly handsome face. Gosh, I hate this guy. Not just because he flirts with Andy in front of me, not just because he doesn't really seem to do anything useful with his time and wealth, but because Andy seems interested. And I'm not handling that well. Even though I've taken some casual lovers over the years, there's never been anyone else for me besides Andy. I think it might be the same for her. In fact, I don't think she's dated since she packed her bags and left our home. Maybe I should feel bad about that. I kind of worry that some of my behavior left her jaded about relationships. Yeah. It was that big of a screw-up. I'm not proud of it. There's part of me that gets stupid romantic sometimes, and thinks that maybe Andy's never dated anyone else because she's been waiting for me to grow up. That maybe she'll give me another shot now that she knows I've got my shit together. But that's probably stupid. I had my shot. I shouldn't be jealous if she decides to move on. Except I really am jealous. I know it's a problem. I hope that she doesn't notice, but I know it's a slim hope. Andy notices everything. Sitting side by side, we start playing through the interview with the sound on low, watching Jack Whitman's expressions and gestures. I never trust a guy that smiles that much, and I hope that Andy doesn't either. Fortunately, she's smart, and she doesn't put up with bad treatment. She'll catch on to his hogwash soon enough and brush him off. Not that it's any of my business. After all, she's not mine anymore. But I still give a shit about her, and this guy is bad news. I can feel it. Hold on a second, she says, pausing the tape. That shop window right there that he's leaning next to. She points to the window in question. That's the candy store. What am I looking at? By his face. She taps the screen, and I peer at the image. Jack has leaned over against the storefront window and is blowing on it softly, the mist of his breath making a fern pattern of frost on the glass. Weird, she mumbles. What's weird? It's freezing, and he breathed on the glass. Of course it fogged up and then frosted over. I stare at the frost pattern, wondering just what it is that has captivated her. I used to see them on the old shed at my grandmother's farmhouse every winter when I was a kid. It's not the frost itself. It's the form it's taking. Windows used to get that fern frond pattern on them in winter back in the days of single glazing, like on your grandmother's shed. But it shouldn't happen on a sheet of shop glass. I'm not following. Maybe this is an upstate thing. She's the one who grew up around here. If anyone would know, it's her. Why? Almost all of the home and shop windows around here are double and triple glazed. They're a lot more insulated, so you don't get the level of heat loss that causes those patterns on the glass. She's toying with the end of her braid, looking thoughtful. Are you sure? Some of the buildings around here are really old. They could have the original glass. I try not to stare at her too obviously, but this is one of countless cute little gestures of hers that make me want to hug her and drag her off to bed to show her what I've learned. I struggle to shift my focus back to the conversation. She nods once. Only one way to find out. I want to get a look at that shop window as soon as we have some food in us. Fair enough. Let's just not do so much legwork outside today, all right? It's 12 degrees out. She gives me a lopsided smile. You were the one who was so eager to get going a half hour ago when you were dragging me out of bed. Now come on, we can warm up with cocoa breaks every now and again while we're out. As long as the cocoa is spiked. A man has to put his foot down sometime, and if I have to endure another day of pounding the streets of this tiny town in freezing weather, I'm not doing it totally sober. The warmth you get from booze is fake. You know that. She frowns at me worriedly, and I snort. I shrug. 'Tis the season. I shut down the laptop and get up to bundle into my outerwear. Her frown dissolves, and a twinkle of humor enters her eyes. All right, fair enough.
Andy.
We're getting closer to the truth. I can feel it. The idea sings in my head as David and I load our plates at the breakfast buffet and take seats across from each other at a small table. I'm pretty sure we're headed for a breakthrough, I say confidently as we settle in. He looks up at me with dull sarcasm in his eyes that just screams, "Are you kidding?" "Food, coffee," he mumbles around his first forkful of eggs. "No talk." It stops me short, and I let out a little laugh as he scoops more of his scrambled eggs into his mouth. I take a bite of my waffles, and my own appetite wakes up. We eat in silence for a while. It's easy and relaxed, not awkward like it was when I first broke up with him. On those mornings, sitting across from each other at my breakfast table in the Boston Tudor I've since sold, the silence between us was packed full of tension. Now, we're just stuffing our faces with good country fare and a whole lot of coffee. Outside the window, snow is drifting down again. People crowd down the packed streets as if it were midsummer, bundled against the cold, trying to ignore the snow blowing into their faces. Phoenicia sure is pretty. It's one of those little towns that you whip past on the highway, with its own sign and exit, but with hills and tall trees concealing large parts of the town. It's thriving compared to a lot of these isolated highway-side towns, mostly because it caters to tourists with businesses like the old-timey theater and river rafting. But it's normally not thriving like this. The breakfast room is crowded. Parking spots are filled everywhere that I can see. And foot traffic is constantly being held up by the ever-present mistletoe, with some couples stopping every couple of minutes to participate in the novelty. It's pretty cute to watch, people stealing kisses in the cold. But it makes me a little sad, too. I see the way David looks at me when he thinks I don't notice, and it makes me wistful. I have always wondered what it would be like if I gave him a second chance. It just never seemed smart. So I never tried it. But times like this, watching the little scenes of romance and the awkwardness of young love on the snowy street, I'm reminded too much of my cold and lonely bed. Sometimes I miss him, though I tell myself I just miss having someone at my side who cares about me. No matter how frustrated David made me, at least I always knew that he gave a damn. And I know that he always will, even if he sometimes has no idea at all how to express it. "You know," he says finally once he's caffeinated enough that his eyes aren't dull, "there's one thing I haven't asked you. What exactly is the theory we're working from in this case?" "Sorry, what?" I ask distractedly. I just noticed Jack outside. He's idly gliding along in his boots, down a strip of ice that has formed after repeated passes by the plows. His hands are tucked behind his back, his midnight blue coat and dark hair flap in the breeze, and he's smiling with mischievous amusement. Of course, he grabs my attention easily. Jack has glamour. That's the only way I can describe it. I have been in the presence of millionaires, scientific geniuses, industry giants, and movie stars, but Jack manages to outshine them all, without seeming to make much of an effort. Who is he really? I wonder, and then catch myself and look back at David. Are we here because there's simply another kind of unknown phenomenon going on? If that's the case, what are we saying that phenomenon is? We have to go beyond a Christmas miracle and get at some specifics. He stabs at one of his sausages as I tear my eyes away from the gorgeous man gliding past, yet again. His question catches me by surprise. I'm not sure I've ever given him a working theory beyond telling him, "This is obviously supernatural. Let's see what we can catch on tape." On the other hand, we've never spent over a week in the cold, away from our families on the holidays, to chase what could be our first real proof of the supernatural. Nor has it ever been this big, with this many witnesses. "Give me a moment," I mutter over the rim of my coffee mug. This is a little hard to put into words. "It always is," he grumbles, and I feel a stab of worry. He sees my face and just offers a tight smile. "Sorry. I'm just sick of the snow. Can't we just go ghost hunting in New Orleans for a few months?" That's actually damn tempting, I admit as the tension breaks and he lets out a little laugh. "No, seriously. You're right. We're probably going to end up presenting on this at the conventions, so I had better have my thoughts organized." He nods slowly and waits for me, staring broodingly out the window. I catch the exact moment that he notices Jack. His expression darkens, his eyes narrow slightly. I swallow and look down at the tabletop, trying to gather my thoughts. In all the years we've been doing this, meticulously cataloging supernatural events and testing their validity, publishing books, giving talks at conventions, and interviews for blogs and podcasts. There's never been one single big discovery like this. No aha moment where we absolutely knew we had proof that people would have to believe. Plenty of hopeful moments and a lot of letdowns, but we've never found our holy grail. We've come close. The haunted house in North Carolina with the constant scrambling sounds in its walls but no signs of infestation. The San Francisco vampire that really did have what looked to be a photo of himself from 1863, even if David swears to this day that the guy in the picture was just a doppelganger. We've come back from our investigations with proof that impresses those in our field, and we've managed to make a name for ourselves among American parapsychologists. The problem is that we can never convince everyone to let go of their preconceived beliefs and take in new information. No matter how convincing our evidence, people always want to run it through their cultural, religious, and personal filters, just like David does. And that's what makes our job so challenging. It's also helped us learn how to cover all our tracks and be meticulous about our research and theories. The only working theory that I have so far is that whoever is responsible for this, their motives would be the same regardless of whether or not they are using some kind of supernatural ability to pull this off. It's a boost to the town, its economy, its reputation, its celebration of the holiday. I'm rambling, I realize. I go quiet, cheeks heating up a little. He sits forward. Okay, that part one can get behind. Go on. Our prime suspects are Jack and his father, Dr. Whitman. Do we even know if their familial connection has ever been confirmed? A lot of the local information on people seems to be based on assumptions and rumors. I'm used to the New York rumor mill. It churns 24/7 in small towns and big cities. It is even worse on the internet. From whispers in boardrooms to breathless social media posts by tween girls, it runs an endless stream of what-ifs, fluff, filler, and hogwash, and sometimes the occasional gem. Like the collection of local folklore surrounding the Whitmans. Very little about Dr. Whitman is confirmed, except for his history of propping up the town every winter with donations, benefits, and parties. As for Jack, he has a confirmed career as a hotshot local skier and playboy, with a whole lot of awards and prizes. He's reading from the file on his phone. That makes me feel better about spending so much time getting everything updated last night. I wasn't sleeping anyway, but it is still nice to know that I spent my bout of insomnia being productive. Nobody's entirely sure what kind of Dr. Whitman is, though. Some say he has a PhD in folklore, some says he's a pediatrician, some say he's a child psychologist. There's a whole list. Scroll down 2 pages, I tell him. Oh wait. He flicks his finger over his phone screen and pauses to swallow down more coffee. I'm still working on my eggs. I've been eating more slowly than usual, my attention all over the place, what with the investigation, the holiday, David, Jack, the dreams I've been having about both of them since we got here. I cover my face with my hands, blushing furiously. I've been trying not to think about those, especially in David's presence. It's true though. It's the reason I couldn't sleep last night. Better that I lose sleep than wake up feeling that way again, heated but unsatisfied, but mostly frustrated as hell from the images my mind teases me with. But I can't help it. My head keeps filling up with images and sensations that have never happened, but that I wish would. If only things were different. In one dream, I'm wrestling with Jack on a pile of furs over who gets to be on top. He's laughing playfully and letting me win, sometimes. There's snow falling outside the odd little cottage, and the icy draft whistling past the window panes bites any bit of my skin not covered by the furs or him, but the heat inside of me seems to burn it away. And then there are the dreams about David. David making me feel good instead of turning me on and then leaving me lying there cold, confused, and frustrated. Though my dream self doesn't seem to have any issues finding release, my real self isn't so lucky. I don't know how it feels to reach peak, and no matter how hot my dreams are, my body just won't go that far on images alone. I don't like dwelling on David's failings as a husband, because if I do, I end up getting this stabbing headache in my temples that I can't get rid of for hours. And then I can't handle being around David for a while. I remind myself of a few things as I wait for David to finish skimming the file. It helps keep my old frustrations at bay. First, after our breakup, and after spending a few years speaking to other women about their own failed romances, I learned that David was pretty typical of early 20s guys, both in bed and out. I could have forgiven his flakiness, his goofiness, and even the inexperience if he had been willing to admit to it, to listen, and to learn. But he was convinced he knew everything already, and I quickly got too frustrated to deal with that. If only I had known, I might have been more patient and kept trying. Or I would have at least found another way to approach the subject. In my dreams, I get a taste of what might have happened if I had. And it's heartbreaking. I've never had a big O in my life. For a while after our relationship ended, David's voice stayed in my head, blaming me for being uptight. It lingered, even though I had fought back at the time, demanding to know what a guy with an "I'm going in dry" t-shirt could possibly know about satisfying women. In the end, we both lost. I learned the hard way not to get too serious too fast, especially when you're just starting out. Knowing someone as a friend and knowing them as a lover and potential husband, it turns out, are two very, very different things. David learned the hard way that if you can't please your woman and you don't want to learn, then you don't get to blame her for that. You don't call her frigid, you don't ask what's wrong with her, and you don't otherwise add insult to injury by being a shitty lover and then calling her one. And if you do, then you'd better get ready for her to unload 6 months of physical frustration, humiliation, and heartbreak at you in one 5-minute verbal barrage, and then watch her turn around and start packing her things. I shake myself out of my reverie to see that David is chuckling obliviously, probably over some of the Whitman folklore I gathered while he was interviewing some of the store owners. I surreptitiously wipe my eyes, face turned toward the window. Jack is out there, chatting and laughing a little with a big biker guy that I peg after a second as Daniel Gates's brother Aaron. Aaron seems to be in an awfully good mood for a guy whose brother went straight from the hospital to jail recently. Curiosity distracts me enough that some of my sadness lifts. My failure to launch with David is in the past after all. I've already decided not to let it ruin the present. How I wish I could have had just one single night with him that was even half as good as my dreams.
David.
I'm trying to pretend I don't notice, but something's going on with Andy. I know she didn't sleep much, but even factoring that in, she seems distracted. Unhappy. I'm trying not to bring it up, because that's an emotional minefield I can't risk crossing. It's possible that she's just as sick of Phoenicia as I am. Or maybe she's worn out from the cold, the holiday season, and all the legwork we've been doing. Or maybe being around me is making her unhappy. I try to dismiss that last idea as stupid and pointless, but the truth is, I just don't know. The holidays are a tough time for a lot of singles. They are for me. Andy is more romantic than I am, and I'm a little worried that it affects her more. I'll ask her what's up in private later, if she doesn't seem to be getting better. I know it's none of my business, at least not beyond the concern of a friend anyway. I don't want to make her feel smothered. It's been rough, these years of pretending I'm not still in love with her. It's roughest when she's hurting. I see her in pain, just within hugging range, but I know that if I touch her like that, then I'm at risk for a bad case of boner brain and all the awkwardness that comes with it. Not to mention that it would probably just add to her discomfort. Being a gentleman about this is tough sometimes. But I'd rather have her in my life as a friend and business partner than not at all. And I don't want to make her unhappy again. Landing such an awesome woman and then finding out that I'd driven her away by making her miserable, without even realizing I was doing it, was the worst wake-up call of my life. It's so easy to rationalize every annoying, destructive habit you have when you're only focused on yourself. But when you're living with another person and they have to deal with all those flaws, or worst case get hurt and irritated by them, being oblivious like that has a high cost. Most kids in their early 20s don't have everything figured out right away, and clearly Andy and I didn't either. The problem was my assumption that I did, in fact, know everything there was to know about love and relationships, and her assumption that I should. At 22, I was still figuring out tax forms and how much alcohol I could drink safely without waking up in the hospital. She has admitted since that her expectations were too high, but some of them really weren't. I keep pretending to read the report I already read this morning, to give her a minute. I hope that she's not staring out the window just so she can catch a glimpse of Jack. I know he's out there, chatting with the local bouncer. I go back to the file on my phone. I like this one the best. The one about Dr. Whitman being a Navy medic who is covered with tattoos under his shirt, one for each person he's killed. She looks back at me, and her smile flickers to life again. Yeah, and supposedly he's so nice now because he's trying to repent for all he's done. Unfortunately, I think we can write that one off as a colorful fiction. But then she glances back out the window. The question is, how do we verify which, if any, of these stories about Whitman are true? We're gonna have to finally pin him down for an interview. I don't care if we have to do it in the middle of a damn snowstorm. He's not putting us off again. He's our prime suspect. If we can prove he's behind the mistletoe, then it will all boil down to what method he used. Mundane or not so mundane. Though I really suspect we'll just find out he hired a bunch of agile kids to sneak around putting up mistletoe for fun, and for getting his town some good press. I guess I was worried that when you were asking me what our working theory was, that it would come out a lot more far-fetched than a local philanthropist is probably behind this, but we're not certain if he used magic or not. At least with this, we have something to work with still. Now her smile comes alongside a self-conscious laugh. Oh, you mean like, a local philanthropist is actually Santa Claus's? Yeah, that is far-fetched. I can't keep the teasing note out of my voice, and she laughs in embarrassment. I wasn't gonna say it like that, but yeah. She finally finishes her waffles. She's the slowest eater I have ever met in my life. I don't really mind, it just amuses me. You know, she muses as she sets down her fork, nobody would take us seriously if we said Santa Claus or something like that was behind it. But everyone's fascinated, and you know that is exactly what they're telling their young kids when asked. That's a good point. The guy does look the part, and everyone likes the idea of a Christmas miracle, even if they don't believe it on a practical level. It is pretty cute. If I ever have kids, I know I'll be telling them this crazy story on Christmas. But if we try to present the Christmas miracle angle with anything but our tongues firmly in cheek, we'll lose all credibility. She tries to distract herself with a drink of coffee, but her mug is empty, and she sets it down with a disappointed look. You want more coffee? I get up, grabbing my mug. She nods, and I grab hers too and go to fill it from the urn. 2 cups in and I'm starting to feel properly awake, but she's still got a glaze to her eyes. When I make it back to the table, I'm absolutely sure she's watching Jack. The strength of my reaction shocks me. I almost drop one of the mugs. I strengthen my grip just in time, but a few droplets scald my fingers as I set the mugs down. What are you looking at? The words come out sharp and angry before I can stop them. She looks up with a shocked expression, and with her cheeks full of color. Sorry, what? You're staring at Jack Whitman again. I lower myself into my seat, doing my best to keep my voice quiet and my tone less pissy. She's not mine anymore. That phrase is really starting to become more like a mantra. I'm not staring at him, she snaps back defensively. I'm trying to figure out how he fits into all this. I've blown it already, and I know that, but I still can't let it go. No, seriously. Every time I look over at you, I catch you watching the guy. What's going on here? Nothing. Andy's hand shakes slightly as she lifts the mug. Her cheeks are pink and she is avoiding my gaze. I know what it means, coming from her. And I'm jealous as hell. Andy, sweetie, the guy's a player. What are you doing? Her cheeks go redder, which makes me angrier, and that embarrasses me because I'm not supposed to be jealous right now or angry, and I know it. And that just pisses me off more. Look, his being cute and charming isn't relevant right now. I'm trying to figure out if we're focusing on the wrong suspect, she says simply. Jack's more of a showman, more energetic and certainly more agile. I also suspect he has more friends among the younger set than his dad. In that sense, he would have an easier time pulling this off. Then her eyes narrow. What are you doing? It's like a slap in the face. I know she's trying to hide her interest in Jack, but maybe she's also trying to ignore the subject. She could be shifting the focus of her interest from getting into his pants to getting to the truth about him. I should trust her. Besides, it's her life, not our life. Nothing. The coffee's too hot, it scalds my throat as I swallow it down. She stares at me, and then her eyebrows go up and a teasing smirk curves her lips. Are you getting jealous of one of our subjects there, Dave? I snort. It's really pretty tough to stay pissed off at her. I'm not jealous. Could have fooled me. Her lips quirk and the teasing expression leaves her face. Seriously, David, the guy might be eye candy, but so what? You stared at Gabby almost constantly when she was showing us up to our room, and you didn't hear me complaining. Now her voice has an edge to it, and my ears start to prickle as my anger melts. Oh yeah. Gabby. The desk clerk, a petite blonde with a tight little skier's body, was a welcome sight after driving up from New York City. And I sure did get an eyeful as she was leading us up to our room. I just forgot that Andy would probably notice. Okay, I concede, backing down a little reluctantly. I'm not a hypocrite. And I wonder about Jack's involvement in all this, too. I've also got a lot of unanswered questions about him and his dad in general. Am I salvaging the conversation? I think I am. But deep down, I can still feel that bit of honest jealousy simmering away, making me wary every time she looks in Jack's direction. That's fair enough. I do too. In fact, I wonder about a lot of people in this town. I'm still not sure how so many of them can be treating this phenomenon like it's just business as usual. She takes a swallow of coffee and looks over as a new family comes through the glassed-in lobby beside the breakfast room. I follow her glance as the family of 4 moves in a huddle toward the reception desk. Mom, dad, older son and tiny daughter, all with dark thick hair and enormous liquid brown eyes. Definitely up down the coast, their coats are brand new and too light for this weather. They look stunned by the cold they just stepped out of, like cats doused in icy water. Andy's still on track, talking about the locals. It's upstate New York. Even when it's 10 degrees out and the snow is up to your thighs, you still have to dig the car out and get to work. Same as when you're neck deep in tourists, I guess. She turns back to me, her shoulders set less stiffly. Things are relaxing again. I'm actually glad. I'll be happier when we reach some hypothesis about the mistletoe, so then we can finally go back home. Home, where it's 10 degrees warmer on average, with clear streets and my nice warm penthouse apartment and an underground garage giving me very little need to slog through snow, where I'll have a little breathing room from Andy, which I'm starting to need if I'm not allowed to touch her, and best of all, no Jack. I really don't like that guy. I don't think I should be jealous of him, but I still wouldn't have a drink with him willingly. And it's not just because Andy likes him. Really. She sits back, her chair creaking slightly. Okay, so let's check out that window, and then try and get Jack's help in pinning down his dad. She sounds a little steadier, and the sadness from her earlier daydreaming is out of her eyes, at least. I'll take it, though the mention of having to deal with Jack again doesn't excite me. I get up somewhat abruptly, once our plates and mugs are both empty. Let's get moving then. I don't know how long your Lothario there is gonna be on the street.
Andy.
I'm pretty relieved when David gets up. It was getting awkward, sitting there at the table. I can feel the strain between us and it exhausts me. Breakfast started out so nice and then he brought up Jack. Knock it off. Don't play blame games. We're just stressed from being in close contact for too long. It's messing with his head. Mine too. One of the ways that he and I have kept our friendship and partnership together for so many years, even after our marriage collapsed, is to not spend too much time together in one stretch. Between the awkwardness, the physical tension, and the regrets, it can be tough to deal with. Here in Phoenicia, though, we've had no choice but to be close, and it has gotten a little uncomfortable here and there. I'm still slightly distracted by my thoughts of David and my problematic attraction to Jack when we make our way out into the small lobby. Jack is outside calmly bending over the window glass, drawing something in the frost with his finger. I turn my head to look at him, and the doorbell jingles as it's pushed open just as we reach it. It's Gabby, looking entirely too cute and perky in her matching pink snowsuit, boots, and mittens, like a single scoop of strawberry ice cream rolling out of a freezer. She stops in the doorway as David pauses to step aside for her, and gifts him with a dazzling smile. I fold my arms across my chest, feeling a stab of jealousy that digs deeper every time I see him with her. Some of that damned mistletoe is hanging over them, over all three of us pretty much. I freeze, indecision mixed with jealousy and my stubborn reluctance to be pushed into anything all roiling around inside of me. "Hey, good morning, Dave." Gabby leans up and kisses him on the cheek before he can react. And then he does, by turning toward her and trying to steal a real kiss. Right in front of me. My eyes widen and my fists clench. "Oh, you did not just start playing games like that," I think furiously, even as Gabby slips away from him before he can get what he wants. There's a coy smile on her face as she shakes her head at him and moves back to her post. Neither one of them so much as looks in my direction. In fact, I may as well not even be there. He just follows her with his gaze. Me, I stifle the urge to elbow him in his side, or maybe his obvious boner, and push my way outside. The icy day digs a million tiny teeth into my exposed skin, and I'm almost glad to feel it cool me, because on the inside, I feel like I might just burn a hole in the snow with every step. I barely even look at Jack, and he gets jealous as hell. But then he goes and pulls this right in front of me? How is that fair? This feels like the world's most passive-aggressive lover's tiff, and that pisses me off even more because we're not lovers. We probably should never have been lovers at all. But this level of escalation by Dave is just plain rude, even if we were just friends who didn't have any emotional sore spots. It's been years, and he's never done anything like this before, I think feverishly, worried. How in the world can he be this callous? And how in the world can I still be this vulnerable to anything he does? I'm blinking back tears as I step out onto the icy sidewalk, the tiny droplets feeling like they might freeze on my lashes. I'm just turning to walk down the street when a firm hand reaches out to grasp my forearm. My heart lifts slightly with relief. It must be David realizing he is being an idiot, and catching up to apologize. Okay. Maybe I won't throw a snowball at his face just yet. I stop and turn, and it's Jack smiling slyly. He smells like a ski slope, frosty pines, and wood smoke. "That was rather rude of your partner," he purrs. Without giving me even a moment to respond, his smile widens, and his eyes narrow in invitation as he points a long finger straight up. I look up slowly, and see an enormous wad of mistletoe dangling from a lamppost over our heads. Oh shit. My cheeks burn as I look back at him, just in time for his lips to come in contact with mine for a kiss I was barely expecting. I freeze, absolutely stunned. It's not unlike any of the other mistletoe kisses between strangers and acquaintances that I've witnessed regularly since being here. He hasn't even wrapped an arm around me. It's really not very dramatic as far as kisses go. Externally, anyway. Inside, however, the simple brush of Jack Whitman's lips against mine sends a hard jolt of pleasure through me and leaves me as wobbly as a teen with her first crush. Oh my gosh. He ends the kiss and moves on as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, I'm standing there as still as a statue, just staring after him. His gentle chuckle drifts back toward me over his shoulder, and I simply can't move. My heart is thundering in my ears so hard that when David catches up to me and says something, I can't even hear it. I turn my head to look at him, and see him scowling at me. "What?" I mumble with irritation, in no mood for any more of whatever soap opera he's trying to turn this into. "You look like you were enjoying that kiss," he repeats loudly and slowly, eyebrows drawn down with anger. I just stare at him incredulously. Actually, the whole thing caught me by surprise, thanks. And you were the one trying to turn a peck on the cheek into full-on face-sucking with Gabby not 2 minutes ago. His belligerent look crumbles and he backs off slightly. I glare at him, and then turn to see where Jack wandered off to. He's strolling down the street, getting further away from us with every second. I'm going to catch up with our subject. You stay here and sulk if you want. Without a second look at David, I turn and hurry after Jack, going as fast as I can trust my boots to take me on the ice-coated sidewalk. With all the extra money coming in, you'd think they would spend a bit on extra bags of salt. Wait. I call after Jack. He comes to a stop and looks back over his shoulder, a look of bemusement on his face. He turns to face me as I wobble up. If you're wanting another kiss, you should at least buy me a drink first, he advises. I draw up short, blinking at him, so at a loss that he bursts out laughing and shakes his head. I'm kidding. What can I do for you? I need your help, I say simply, worried that I'll start stammering if I even try to discuss that kiss. Although it was still very, very noteworthy. I haven't had very many kisses that have left me trembling and breathless, like I just swept down a slope in a toboggan. He lifts an eyebrow. Me? Oh, well then. What are the details, Miss Andromeda? It's just Andy. I need your help nailing down an interview with your father within the next 2 days. 3 tops. We have to move on after that, and our investigation just won't be complete without a word from him. He winces slightly. I can't make any promises, unfortunately. I wish I could. Your work really does fascinate me. But my father, as you have no doubt learned, is notoriously hard to pin down. Jack, please. I draw a bit closer to him. He must have a very well-insulated coat. I couldn't feel much warmth coming off of him when he leaned against me to kiss me. And I feel nothing coming off him now. I hate being pushy, but we're in a tight spot here. He strokes his slightly pointed chin. I can hear David belatedly puffing up behind me, and I ignore him. Jack's brilliant blue eyes flick over to David, and then back to my face. How so? Everything points to your father's involvement. And yours, for that matter. I stare back at him as he smirks at me. Say what you want, but you know it's true. You and your dad are the 2 biggest Christmas enthusiasts that either of us has ever seen. Winter enthusiast in my case, not just Christmas. Really, holidays are far more his bag, especially this one. But go on. His eyes are twinkling at me like he thinks this is all a very funny joke. In the end, I don't want to do anything either of you isn't comfortable with. But you cannot pull an event, or prank, or whatever you want to call it, this big, so big that it makes national news, and expect people not to be curious about how you pulled it off. I can't keep the plea out of my voice. He stares at me almost neutrally, just a gleam of humor in his eyes, neither confirming nor denying his involvement. Again. Regardless of who is behind this and what method was used, I still don't understand. How will knowing the specifics of Phoenicia's little miracle help anyone? He asks cryptically. I blink up at him, wrapping my coat more closely around me. The cold seems to be cutting through it more sharply with every gust of wind. This exact coat saw me through a Canadian winter. Why can't it handle this? What do you mean? Some things are fueled by belief, not by facts, my dear. Many of the best experiences in life have little to do with logic. He looks past me again at David. Take romance, for example. What about it? David grits out through clenched teeth. I feel my blood pressure rise, but I don't confront him. Getting the interview is too important. Well, Jack says mildly as I struggle to keep warm and find myself failing. People do not fall in love because they present each other with a list of logical arguments why they are a good and compatible choice, though they might try to come up with one to justify their choice. But that, he continues with a widening smile, is something humans come up with entirely after the fact. Our hearts make the decision before our brains can kick in, or sometimes in spite of what our brains think. And we must simply trust that the one we love is worthy of our devotion. Love is irrational, my friends, and though it must make sense to us, we base much of it on faith. And it is the same with miracles, even silly little ones like this. He winks. I'm so cold. I need to duck back inside and get some more coffee into me before we take one single step further down the street. We're paranormal investigators, Jack. We're here to try to make sense of things. I understand that you think removing the mystery will remove the magic from the situation. Yes, I absolutely do, he replies mildly. Take out too much of the mystery, and you remove the wonder. He seems to notice my shivering, and a concerned line appears between his brows, but he doesn't comment on it yet. What makes you think that our investigation has that kind of power? Jack, look. We will probably write a book, and also present to a convention or two on this, which will mean even more tourists and more positive attention for your town. Unless we end up with conclusive proof either way, all that David and I can do in the end is present the evidence and let people draw their own conclusions. Talking so much seems suddenly exhausting. I'm shivering harder and harder. David steps up beside me finally, giving me a glance that actually looks concerned. I think what Andy's trying to say is, no matter what evidence is presented, some people will always believe, and even those who don't will probably enjoy it anyway. And their kids will believe, because it's a great little story. If we ever have kids, I'll tell them this one myself. Hold the phone. Everything goes screeching to a halt inside of me, and I start shivering harder. That was a Freudian slip, I tell myself firmly. And of course it was, but I still stand there with my heart pounding, wondering if David is aware of what he just said. He doesn't seem to be. He just stays focused on the conversation. That's interesting, Jack murmurs. So what you are saying is, no matter whether you actually reveal what happened, or lead people in entirely the wrong direction, you think people will simply take the details you've provided and draw their own conclusions. Jack sounds incredulous, like it never occurred to him that we wouldn't actually be out here trying to dissect a Christmas miracle and to change everyone's minds. We're not here to take the magic out of Christmas. Just determine whether there is any. That's it, exactly, I say in a tiny shivery voice, and both men turn to me with almost identical frowns of concern. Informing people is not the same as telling them what to think. I'm sorry if I made you think we were here to debunk Phoenicia's miracle. That was never the aim. We're chasing wonder up here. David kicks the tires on everything we do, but in the end, that's only so that we can have something that stands up to real debunkers. I shift my weight, feeling a little wobbly, and am completely surprised when David grabs my arm to steady me. Catching Jack's eye, I repeat, please. Just an interview, so we have something to wrap this investigation up. I'll ask my father directly and then call you, he replies, suddenly looking very troubled. I'm very sorry about this. Perhaps you should go back inside and warm up. Sorry for what? I manage to ask a moment before my knees buckle. Whoa. David catches me and steadies me with surprising ease. Okay, yeah, let's get you back inside. He bends down and tosses me effortlessly over his shoulder. Give us a call later, he yells over my body and starts heading back to the bed and breakfast. What the hell is wrong with you? The edge in his voice is gone, replaced only with concern. He moves me down his torso, so he's cradling me like a baby instead of marching me around like a sack of potatoes. I drag my head up, barely able to meet his gaze. I'm numb inside and out. The wind feels like it's found a way through my clothes, skin, flesh, right through to my bones, coating them in a layer of ice. I'm so cold, I mumble softly and then look up at him, astonished by how scared that suddenly makes me. I've only been outside maybe 10 minutes. But I feel like I've been wandering around a mountainside without my coat. Help. Okay, sweetheart, okay, he mutters as we turn up the walk. Let's get you inside and get a hot drink into you. Did your feet get wet or something? I don't know. I was just standing there. My words are going away again. I feel a fluffy haze closing in over my vision like frost over a window. I just got so cold. The blast of warm air as we step into the inn stings my skin, and I let out a little sob of relief. He leads me in through the lobby and sits me on the bench. "Hey, can we get a cup of coffee over here?" he calls out to Gabby. She jumps up off her stool, staring at me worriedly. "She get a chill?" "Yeah, it came on pretty suddenly. I figured we'd try a hot drink." He gives her a tight business smile, all hint of flirtation gone. "Okay, yeah. Hang on." She hurries into the breakfast room and comes back with a steaming cup for both of us. "You think you're going to need help getting her up the stairs?" I'm a little shocked. Did I misread Gabby? "I can get up the stairs," I insist. "And I damn well will. Just give me a few minutes." I swallow down the coffee greedily, feeling a faint burn on my tongue but not caring. I need the warmth. But a few moments after taking the last gulp, I blink my eyes open and look around in confusion. The warmth spreads inside of me, and then gutters out like a match struck in an Arctic wind. What is this? Am I going to end up in the damn hospital like that biker? "Let's just go upstairs," I say through chattering teeth.
David.
I try to keep my cool as I help Andy up the stairs. She's shivering so hard that it's actually freaking me out. I don't want her to end up in the hospital because the wind chill factor left her hypothermic. But if I can't get her stable and warmed up in the next hour, the hospital is exactly where we're going. I tell her this quietly but firmly on the way up the stairs. "And then we're going home, sweetheart. We can do a phone interview with Whitman from my penthouse, damn it, with the heat cranked up to 80. "We can't give up now," she protests quietly. I scoff. "We damn well can and will if it comes down to it. There's no way I'm letting you end up hurt for the sake of another book. You're too important. Now come on, let's get you up the rest of these stairs." I help her up the last few steps and then down the hall, where Gabby has unlocked the door and is busily bringing carafes of coffee, cocoa, and hot water with a basket of teas. I feel a brief flash of embarrassment as she steps aside so I can help Andy through the door. She doesn't even meet my eyes. Apparently, I read a whole hell of a lot more into that kiss she gave me than she had intended, and I don't have the time or energy to live that down. Stupid. And I know it upset Andy. That was why she went barreling ahead of me into the street, straight into a kiss with Jack that then pissed me off in turn. And then somehow this happened. That's the really horrible part. I don't quite know how she ended up getting this chilled through. She wasn't even on the street a quarter of an hour. She was properly bundled and her hair wasn't wet. How did this happen? "Thank you," I tell Gabby on her way out as I help Andy over to the edge of the bed. She's shivering and huffing even in the warm room. Very bad sign. "What the hell happened? You're shaking like you were out there for hours." I help her out of her coat, which feels perfectly dry, but when I touch her bare wrist in the process, it feels like she had it resting in a bucket of ice. "I don't know," she chatters, peeling off her gloves to reveal almost colorless hands. I feel horrible. I'm scared. She hugs herself and hunches forward as she sits on the edge of the bed, and I hastily pour her some cocoa and bring it over. "Here," I tell her, and help her hold the cup so she can swallow the contents without sloshing it everywhere. "I'm so cold," she mumbles. She swallows down the cocoa so fast that I fear she's burned her throat, but all she does is shake her head and push the mug back at me. It barely makes a dent. "I need more." "Okay. I'm gonna suggest you take your clothes off and get under the covers," I say quickly, trying to ignore just how much this is freaking me out. This is a million times worse than watching her get kissed by another guy. She's suffering. I'd rather lose a limb than watch and do nothing. She nods and starts peeling off her layers of sweaters, her hat and scarf, her boots. The skin beneath is so very pale, even for her. I lay a hand against her cheek and the chill there stings me. "Okay, sweetie, this isn't good," I mutter. "If we can't get you warmed up, I'm driving you to the hospital." She looks up at me bleakly as she strips down to her long underwear. I check the sleeve cuff to find that it's not damp either. It should be insulating. But she's still sitting here with her teeth chattering. Please no damn hospital, she mumbles. You know how much I hate them. Yeah, and you know how much I hate the idea of you risking your health if it turns out you need a hospital. I keep my voice gentle but with an edge to it because damn it, Andy. I'm giving this half an hour, and if you don't start improving, off we go. She stares at me, her eyes starting to go bright and her chin starting to tremble. Oh shit, I think, feeling a familiar panic try to fight past my control. I squash it, reminded again that I still love this woman, even if I can never be with her. But then, before I can say anything reassuring, she bursts into tears. Damn. Okay. Calm down, man. Okay. Andy, honey, what can I do to help you? I don't know, she sobs, sounding disoriented and a little hysterical. I'm so cold and I can't think, but please, no hospital. People go there to die. It hits me, even as I scoop her up and help her get bundled into bed. She cries softly the whole time, mumbling no hospital, as my heart sinks into my boots. Of course she's scared of hospitals. She doesn't even want to explore abandoned ones for ghosts anymore. How much of her family has gone into a hospital in the last 5 years and never come out? Her parents, car accident. Her grandmother, cancer. A cousin, to suicide. Her favorite aunt, who had gone in for appendicitis, dead 2 weeks later from sepsis. That last one, Andy had gone to the hospital every day and camped there as much as they would let her, just so Aunt Margaret wouldn't be alone. It's only been 2 years, so of course she still feels wary. She sits up in a ball against the pillows while I wrap the blankets and comforters around her, and then turn on the heated mattress pad I got her as a Christmas present. Okay, I tell her, breathless but steady. We are going to get you warmed up and rested, and once you're feeling better, we're going to do absolutely no legwork that does not take place in a heated car or a heated building. She nods, sniffling and shivering, her cheeks still coated with tears. Oh, okay. Damn this cold. And damn me for not noticing sooner that something was wrong with Andy, all because I was too busy driving another wedge between us from jealousy. And damn Jack, just for being Jack. And maybe, for being more interesting than me. I peel off my outerwear and get everything hung up while we wait for her to warm up. I bring her chamomile tea and check in halfway through her gulping it down. She's still pale and cold, but the terrified look is weakening. Satisfied for the moment, I pull off my boots, noticing that the chunks of snow on them are still intact. How do any people live up here year-round? I grumble as I put the boots on the doormat. Being willing to deal with this every day seems completely crazy to me. No answer from Andy, but at least she's stopped crying. I grab half a cup of coffee, fill the rest with cocoa, and walk over to see how she's doing again. She's drained her mug of tea and set it aside, burrowing so deep down into the blankets that she looks like a pile of bedding with a face. How you feeling? I ask her softly, wondering if I should be encouraged or worried by her sudden quiet. She blinks up at me and then says softly, it's only a little better. I check my watch. A little is better than nothing. We've only been up here 10 minutes. I told myself I'd give it 20 more before I really need to worry, and it hasn't been that long. Maybe it will be okay. I'm not leaving you alone until I know you're all right and don't need a hospital, I say firmly. I know we've had a rough time being in such close quarters for so long, but this is too important. We'll both just have to deal with it. I don't just mean the mess with Gabby, or the mess with Jack, or the physical tension between us, which I know she's been feeling too. Those are concerns, though now is really not the time to think about it. It's hard to get out of my head though. Through the door separating our rooms, I've heard her at night. I even heard her cry out my name, and that was sweet hell to listen to. I'm putting it all aside. Physical tension and relationship problems can wait. The squabble that drove us out into the cold seems pointless and silly now. Okay. She nods and then her face crumples. Thank you. I want to hug her so badly that my hands flex at my sides, but I force myself to simply smile. I drag over a chair so I can sit next to her. No problem. I miss the feel of her in my arms so fiercely right now that I can barely stand it. But all I can do is care for her in the ways that she will allow. She's the one who set the boundaries. It's up to her whether to take them down or not. I wish I had understood that better back when we were together. It's yet another thing that I wish I could show her. That I've changed. That I'm not that same kid I was then, the one who disappointed her so much. Hell, I think we've both figured out by now that it's almost impossible to keep a relationship together in any real way when your prefrontal lobe hasn't even finished forming. If I had realized that back then, I would have waited years before even trying to get with her. I still hope I can. I know it's stupid of me to camp at her gates like this. I've done everything I can to hide it. But I'm the kind of guy who can't hide anything for shit. You know, if Jack can get us that interview, that's all we have left to do, and maybe monitoring the mistletoe on the 5th. I try to distract her from her discomfort and fear by talking like the future beyond her current reality is a foregone conclusion. Then we can just go home. She seems to have thawed out enough to at least talk shop a little, but it takes her a minute. Do you think anyone will mess with the deer cams if we put them up around town? Not if we get permission from the shopkeepers. If this follows the pattern we expected, I see Andy reach for her mug and I get up to fill it with more tea, then we will see all the mistletoe either disappear or be taken down between sundown and sunup on the last of the 12 days. The 5th. She frowns hazily, then sighs at herself and nods. Exactly. I bring it back to her and our fingers brush. Hers are still cold. I frown as I feel them barely close around the warm mug, and gently wrap my hands around her own to help her grasp it. Come on, sweetheart, you can do this. Don't spill. If I keep putting more fluid in me, I'll end up freezing to death on the toilet, she chatters out, and then lets out a high, nervous giggle. Especially with all the caffeine. One of the reasons I switched to decaf, I joke in a dry tone, and she lets out a tiny laugh that sounds like a sob. But I can't have you pissing icicles. We've got to warm you up a little first. She covers her face with her hands and her shoulders shake. I hold the mug for her until she calms down and help her sip at it. She takes her time, and I wonder if her burned tongue is finally starting to hurt or if she's too numb still to feel it. There you go, I say when the mug is dry. I set it aside and lean over to catch her eye. Are you thawing out? She takes a deep breath and then starts to shiver again, wrapping her arms around herself. I still can't get warm, she whimpers. It's been 25 minutes. She seems a little better, and she's begging me not to go to the hospital. But I'm so alarmed by how pale and cold and shivery she is, even with blankets bundled and heat applied, that I'm still half tempted to carry her down to the car. If I do that though, she'll probably never forgive me. Shit. Well look. I only have one other thing I can try, but I'm afraid you'll throw pillows at me when you recover. I shouldn't even be thinking about this. It's a stupid idea. But it's pretty much always recommended in situations like this, body heat. With as few clothes as possible. What are you gonna do? She mumbles, her eyes alarmingly dull. That expression on her face decides it for me. I start unbuckling my belt.
Andy. Whoa, hey, wait a minute. The chill that has permeated my body leaves me hazy, but I'm not so far out of it to not feel the shock when David starts shucking off his jeans. I see red wool flannel underneath, and then he stretches up and strips off his sweaters and shirt as well. Standing there in his bright red long johns, he's a weird mix of alluring and ridiculous, which perfectly fits the sudden strip down. What? I mumble. Are we boning for warmth now? I have to pause a moment to sort out how I feel about that. My emotions are mixed, to say the least. I never stopped feeling that spark of attraction, but I never stopped feeling the wariness and frustration either. I decide to hold off on getting annoyed until I know what the hell is actually up. Meanwhile, my gaze is taking a walk up and down his body before I even realize it. He's filled out a little since our days together, in a nice, defined way that makes the flannel stretch flatteringly over his limbs and chest. I wonder if his hip bones would still end up leaving bruises on my thighs. Then I tear my mind out of the gutter as fast as I find it there. Shit. He grins awkwardly. Well, the only way I have left to help you warm up is me. Unless you feel that having me sink you in a hot bath might do the trick. His voice is so gentle, his eyes worried. I know that we would probably already be halfway to the hospital by now, if he had his way. I'm glad that he hasn't pushed the issue yet. And that means that I spend the next couple hours. No clothes and wet in front of me. Yeah. Awkward. Did the crotch of his ridiculous underwear just gain some volume at the thought? I'm too numb to smile or blush right now. Yeah, that's gonna be too awkward. Let's try this instead, I stammer, my whole body aching from shivering so long. This has to work. And really, I'll take a cuddle right now, gladly. My muscles hurt, my joints hurt, and my skin stings from the contrast between the warm environment and the cold that seems to have seeped into my bones. I started getting cold after Jack kissed me, I realize. But that has to be a coincidence. It's not like his lips, which weren't particularly cold, had somehow given me hypothermia. The kiss just came so soon after I went outside that I somehow connected the two events in my head. Everything that David has done for me has helped a little, enough that I'm not quite so scared or cold anymore. But as he takes hold of the covers to slip into the spot beside me for the first time in years, my stomach flips over nervously. He lifts the edge of the covers and climbs in next to me, a welcome presence that I have to pretend to only tolerate. But then I realize I can't simply tolerate it. The moment his leg brushes against mine, the warmth of his body starts to sink into me, and stays. I let out a gasp and cuddle against him at once, jamming my cheek against his shoulder. It's not my imagination. Oh, holy crap. I close my eyes, basking in the heat coming off of his sleek, hard body even through the flannel. Oh, hey, he laughs awkwardly as he gets settled, wrapping the bedding around us both, and then looping an arm around my shoulders. The warmth coming off of him feels similar to when he turned on the mattress pad, but the heat sinks in more deeply, and it doesn't feel like it's fading away faster than it gets to me. Don't make fun. You're warm, I complain, though I'm starting to notice an ache inside me that has nothing to do with the cold. I missed cuddling with him. For all the flaws in our relationship, he was always loved to cuddle, and I liked it too. Now I remember how good it feels to have his long limbs wrapped around me, and his cheek against the top of my head. My eyes clench further shut, as if I can use pressure alone to keep the sudden wistful tears from escaping. He's gone very quiet. I can feel his heart beating fast against my hand. His chest heaves, his breath shivers. I have no doubt that if I slid my hand about 2 feet south, I'd feel his pulse pounding hard somewhere else too. I shouldn't be thinking about David's body. But really, like the rest of him, it's not my business anymore. Now though, as I lean against him and soak up his warmth, my eyes closed, I feel the tremors inside of me go still and my muscles slowly unlock. Oh my gosh, I mumble. Any better? He sounds hopeful, and a little breathless. His grip tightens around me, and another wave of warmth runs through my body. Yes, I gasp, more surprised than anything. You were right about this one, okay? You can make fun of me later. I look into his eyes briefly, and tighten my grip on him. I feel him squirm happily, his heartbeat picking up again. I'm trying not to let it get to me. He's probably saving my life right now, or at least saving me from a night in my least favorite place in the world. But I know that the circle of his arms is dangerous territory for me. Still, I'm not going to complain. Not one bit. Not even if I end up having to fight the whole night to ignore how much I'm enjoying this. He reaches over and folds his hands around one of mine, touching me experimentally. A thoughtful look deepens on his face even as a shiver goes through him. It's working, he sighs finally but makes no move to let my hand go. I don't let his go either. I lean my head against his chest instead and close my eyes as his heartbeat slowly evens out. I know he has to be wishing we were doing more than just cuddling. There's part of me that wishes that too, which is why it's dangerous. Sorry about this, I sigh as feeling comes prickling back uncomfortably into my fingers and toes. I know you want to get out of here, and here we are spending an extra day because I got a chill. Well, the mistletoe phenomenon will end when it ends, regardless. I can put the damn deer cams up myself if I have to. He's stroking my hair. He's not supposed to do that. And I'm not supposed to be leaning into it, eyes half closed like a contented cat. But here we are. We'll catch whatever there is to catch on them the night of the 5th, and then move the hell on the next day, regardless. Our Phoenician Father Christmas can talk to you over the phone if he can't see you before you feel better. His tone is firm but calm, and I sigh through my nose and simply nod my agreement. How are you feeling now? He asks me, as he keeps petting me. I should protest. I should definitely complain. I stretch against him, feeling a shiver go through him that has nothing to do with cold. I smile against his chest, feeling powerful and strangely calm about it. I still get to decide how far this goes. There's something about that is so satisfying and tempting as well. We could stay here cuddling all day if I want, and he'll be happy to do it. Or we could do more. And I know David would be happy to do that. No pressure. None. It's all up to me. This is nice, I murmur wholeheartedly. He goes very still for a little while as he digests this. Then he smiles a little. Yeah. I stifle a yawn. Now that I'm not sitting there shivering from both my dropping temperature and my fear of a looming hospital visit, I'm absolutely drained of energy. The caffeine from the drinks isn't even touching me. My muscles ache. My body, warm again, has gone slack from loss of tension. My joints pop as my body settles. I can't keep my eyes open. Dunno if I'll be conscious long, but I'm not feeling like I'm gonna freeze anymore. I'm exhausted though. What the hell even was that? And why was it that only David's touch could fix me? I stifle a yawn as his lean hand slips down to cup my cheek experimentally. His skin feels slightly cool now instead of burning hot. Okay, well, you're warm again. But I think I'd better stick around for a while. I should argue. But I know he's not pushing the issue so much as he's enduring the situation and forcing himself to hold me, and go no further. It would make me feel guilty, but how many times have I wished he would show some self-control? He's showing it now, and it fascinates me. If I wasn't so damned worn out, I just might want to test his resolve. Or maybe give him permission to give in. Thank you, I mumble finally as I slip gently off to sleep. The Christmas snowstorm never ended. The snow just kept piling up outside until now. I can see the tops of the drifts level with the second-floor window. We're trapped. The lights are on. The room is warm. There's food downstairs. The water runs. We're safe, but we're not going anywhere. And neither one of us cares right now. We're tangled up, kissing. You okay? He murmurs drowsily, not even really focused on me yet. Think you called out in your sleep? Yeah, I murmur as I lift my head to look him in the face. Good dreams. Bad timing, but good dreams. Sort of. I liked them, but I can't do anything about them. He grins drowsily. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I shift my weight and feel my body start to wake up as well. Tingling, I lift my head from his chest and lean back to look at him. Our eyes meet. He strokes his hand back over my braid, and then cups the back of my skull and leans down to kiss me. We're both half awake. Our lips brush and a delightful tremor runs all the way through me. I whimper softly, and do my best not to chase his lips as he moves away. Sorry, he murmurs. My head feels too light. The room seems to rock a little, like a cabin on a yacht. I need to get up, I mutter, and he nods, backing off a little more. He helps me to the bathroom and I shut myself in, heart banging away in my chest. Damn.
David.
I ended up being saved by the bell, or rather, by the tubular bell's ringtone of my phone, telling me that someone related to the current case was calling. It was Jack, with an invitation to an early supper later today with himself, his father, and some guests. If, of course, Andy was feeling well enough. She was and insisted that we take the invitation. And that's how we found ourselves driving out to the Whitman lands, just hours after we nearly had to take Andy to the hospital. "Are you still cold?" I ask her, reminding myself that I should still prioritize that over everything else. It's not the first thing that springs to mind, though. That comes out next, but only after she sits in silence in the passenger seat beside me for almost a minute. "Are you still pissed off at me?" More silence. Shit. I hate this. More than being yelled at, more than being cried at, I hate the long, awkward silences that happen when she's really thinking something over. They remind me too much of that uncomfortable hour between when I'd said all that shit I shouldn't have, and when she'd walked out. I'm probably about to say way too much again. But this time, I know that admitting my feelings is the right thing to do. Not the comfortable thing, and maybe not the safe thing. For all I know, it could totally backfire. But it's the right and honest thing. "Look, if you expect me to feel bad because I kissed you, I'm sorry, because I don't. I really do not, and I don't regret waking up with you in my arms either." That gets me a glare, but then her face softens. She's still quiet though. "Andy." I trail off, going quiet myself as I navigate past a particularly sharp turn in the road. The Whitmans live high up the mountain, so high that they sit across the valley from the ski resort. Driving there takes focus in this snowy mess. As soon as it's back to the bland climb through the woods, I go on. "I can recognize that you want me to keep my distance and keep things as they have been these past year, with us just being friendly. I can even respect your wishes and do it, most of the time. But if I kiss you first thing when I wake up, I can't feel bad about it. It's what I have wished I could do for years. I can't turn off how good it feels. There. Now it's out there. It might have come out a bit angrier than it should have. And it was maybe even a bit gentler than my angry self wanted it to be. Maybe it means the end of our relationship, I just don't know." "I need a minute," she finally says, a touch of pain in her voice. The anticipation is threatening to kill me, but I simply nod and keep driving for a while. A minute later, I spy a turnoff up ahead, and I start to slow down so I can pull into it smoothly. I notice her sit forward against the seatbelt, a little. "What are you doing?" she asks in a tone of baffled annoyance. "You said you needed a minute. I gave it to you. Well, now we need to talk about this, and put it to bed enough that we can focus on the damn interview instead of stewing on it all night. Okay. Can we do that?" She takes a shivery breath. "Fine. But you had better keep the damn heat on." "Of course." I pull us into one of the small parking spaces, lined up at the inner edge of the turnoff. The view down the mountain is dreary in winter, a slope of bony dormant trees barely broken up by clusters of pine. Old stone ruins and boundary fences, covered half the year by foliage, are scattered and exposed on the slope like broken teeth. A blanket of snow covers everything, and the blue shadows and pink streaks of the gathering sunset are the only real color in the landscape. "Look," she says finally, with a tone of tense resignation that tells me I'm not the only one in the car who is taking an emotional risk. "You know I love you. I tried to love you as a friend, but it has never quite worked out, and the reason for that is I never stopped being attracted to you," she admits, shocking the ever-loving hell out of me. "Wait, what? You never said anything." I'm too startled to feel angry. The frustration of the last few years doesn't seem quite so huge if it's been shared, even if only in secret. I couldn't. She can't look at me right now, but at least she's talking. I let her gather her wits while she stares down at her hands beside me. I couldn't afford to, not for a long time. Both of us had too much growing to do. Well, I'm not gonna argue over that, especially since a lot of that was on my end of things. It's only the ugly truth. I just couldn't face it at the time. But I'm not the same guy that first was at 22, honey. "You are, but you're not," she murmurs. "I don't want us going through that terrible relationship drama again. But that's different from not wishing we could." She goes quiet and shakes her head, dropping her face into her hands. She's not crying. She is, however, blushing. I watch her quietly until she stops hiding her face. "You okay?" I ask as she lifts her head. A gust of wind rattles the bare branches outside and sends a dusting of snow to the ground. She nods slowly, but that alarming thoughtfulness is still on her face. "I'm not entirely the same person either," she says suddenly. "I've got my own regrets. I couldn't seem to figure out that I wasn't the only person in the relationship who was too young to have a clue." She doesn't sound like she's being charitable. That's one thing about Andy. She too often makes concessions for the sake of keeping the peace. But then again, she's gotten better at standing up for herself in the last few years. I search her expression with my gaze and see only tired earnestness. "Well, look, obviously we're both still a good team on a lot of levels, or we wouldn't be able to do this work together anymore." I take a deep breath. I've wanted more than that ever since we broke up. I wanted you, but I knew I wasn't ready to try again. She goes pale, then the blush comes back, and she has that shy look she gets sometimes when she thinks no one is looking. It's adorable. I've always been scared that trying again will ruin things between us. It was hard enough recovering the first time. I don't know if we could survive it a second time. I swallow and turn to look out the windshield. A fat squirrel hops onto the hood of my car and tucks her paws up against her chest, peering in at us hopefully. Her fur is so thick that she doesn't even seem to notice the cold. "Cute little guy," Andy murmurs warmly, some of the tension broken. The squirrel scrambles off, leaving little paw prints behind. I never wanted to be just friends. But I thought it was necessary. So did I at the time. But does it have to be just friendship forever, when neither of us wants it to be? I take a deep breath. "I'll deal with it if you say no, but I have to ask." That terrible silence again. For a little while, I'm absolutely convinced that she's going to say no. But all she says is, "I've got some reservations. I have to guard myself against any more problems." "If you guard yourself forever, we're always going to be in limbo like this, sweetheart," I protest softly. "Do you think that there's any chance we can try again?" She turns a soft smile on me, one that's full of a lot more promise than those long, unnerving silences. "I'll think about it," she says, and it doesn't sound like she's putting me off this time. My heart's light as hell as we make the rest of the drive up the mountain. "So where did you two meet?" Dr. Whitman asks a little while later as we settle in his study. Dinner isn't quite ready yet. The short delay down the mountain didn't eat up too much time. I look around the cozy space lined with books and heated by its own fireplace, with an embossed tin ceiling and a wood-inlaid floor. He's stretched out on one of the couches while we take the other, and Jack sits in a wingback chair near us, examining the contents of Andy's gear bag. The room smells of burning pine logs and the mulled wine we were greeted at the door with. It's been 15 minutes since that greeting, and so far, it's felt like we're the ones being interviewed. "We went to school together," Andy says in the calm, cheerful voice she uses when she's being transparent in the hopes of drawing in an interviewee. "We've known each other through our families for almost 2 decades now." She's talking with an awkward little smile on her face suddenly, like she's introducing her boyfriend to an older relative. He smiles indulgently and nods, squinting with amusement. "So, you were in love all that time?" Just friends," I hasten to correct, and she nods quickly and awkwardly. "Yeah, best friends." She takes a deep breath. "We started investigating paranormal events and locations when I was 16. "Oh, so the love part came later." His bright blue eyes twinkle at her. I press my lips together and examine the patterns on the ceiling, trying not to let my amusement show. He really has her on the spot. Me too, but I don't have an uncontrollable blush reflex. She coughs into her fist. She starts. "Dad," Jack warns good-naturedly as he looks up from the camera he's fiddling with. "Be nice. She's had a long day." His father beams. "Of course. So, you went on your first ghost hunt when you were 16. It's weird. Normally, around now, I would be holding the camera, and Andy would be asking the questions. But everything's been turned on its ear. I wonder if the Whitmans had planned it that way." I slide my bag out from under my chair and start unpacking the digital audio recorder we use for interviews. I'm sorry, young man, but I thought we said no cameras. Dr. Whitman lifts an eyebrow at me as I pull out the box, which is chunky, gray, and about twice the size of my smartphone. I look over at his son, who I swear is recording us, and bite back a retort, smiling instead. It's just the audio recorder, as we discussed. Oh. He laughs a little, taking a swallow of his wine. I understand. Go on then. He turns his gaze back to Andy, who takes a deep breath before going on. Well, I was 16, and I had a crush on David, and... Wait, you did? I turn a stunned look on Andy and hear Jack snicker slightly. Sorry. Go on. So, when he told me that we would be recording EVPs at an old New England churchyard, I half believed he actually wanted a particularly creepy make-out spot. But instead, we spent the night huddled together listening to ghosts whispering. There's a wistful smile on her face as she reminisces. I listen in absolute fascination, staring at her as she describes the first night we ever spent together. How she didn't know if I would make a move, and how she'd been trying to figure out what she would do if I didn't. Breathless nervousness. And the whole time, I'd been oblivious, because I was dealing with the exact same thing. So, did the ghosts actually talk? Jack sounds genuinely fascinated. Yes, they did, Andy says excitedly. I smile and speak up, her enthusiasm catching. One of them said my name. Well, there were some fragments of speech we isolated on the EVP recordings, but the problem was we had, and still have, no way of proving that they aren't something else. Someone talking, a radio playing in a car passing by the cemetery. The skeptics can always get us on things like that. I admit my frustration quietly. That's not the only problem. A lot of the time, we'll experience a seriously intense paranormal experience, poltergeist activity, voices, sounds of knocking, even a sighting of something, and he shrugs animatedly, but the batteries on the camera will die. It won't record, and we get nothing to show for it but snow and white noise. Photographs never turn out either. Almost like something is messing with us. That's probably the most frustrating part, I agree. I'm still a skeptic, but I'm an open-minded skeptic. I want to have that evidence so that I can examine it and have real proof. But I'd estimate we end up being able to use maybe a quarter of what we end up collecting. Yeah, that's even a little generous, Andy sighs, reaching over to squeeze my hand. I almost dropped the recorder. Yeah. Stop that, sweetheart, otherwise I'm gonna have to do this interview while hiding an awkward boner. Oh shit. Too late. I squirm slightly in my seat and set the too small to hide anything recorder on my lap. And yet you keep trying. Dr. Whitman sits back, meshing his fingers over his belly. Aren't you ever tempted to give up? Andy and I look at each other mutely, and then shake our heads. It's more than finding out what the truth is when it comes to situations like this. It's our excuse to spend weekends together while doing something cool and interesting. Not a chance, Andy adds, which leaves me feeling much warmer on this cold night. After their odd little interview of us, we have supper together, and I have to admit I'm impressed. I didn't hear the small army of cooks and servers it must have taken to put this feast together, but there is enough food to feed half the town. There's goose and game fowl, a slab of boar, venison, nut pies, and eggnog with enough booze in it to make my head spin a little. This is amazing, Andy breathes. I nod, my mouth already full of goose and stuffing mere seconds after it hit my plate. There are only 2 servants, both slim, aging fellows, silent, with pointed beards and long noses. Dressed in green with white piping, they retrieve plates and fill dishes on request and then go back to their posts by the fireplace. It's a lot for just 2 guests. I'm wondering if Whitman's trying to dazzle us, or if this is just how he rolls. Oh, it's not just for the 2 of you, we'll have friends dropping by all night. I hold a feast for a full fortnight surrounding Christmas and New Year's. He winks, and I realize in the process of swallowing that he just handed us a clue. What happens when the last day of feasting ends? Andy asks, picking up immediately on the slip. Or is it only one? If there's one thing I can tell, It's that Whitman has been in control of this interaction from the moment we walked in. Oh, the usual things one does once the holidays have fizzled out until Valentine's. Gather my decorations back up and bundle them into the attic for another year. Fortunately, I have some help. I couldn't do it all on my own at my age. He and Jack exchange a conspiratorial look, and I'm really left wondering. Damn it, they only started giving up details about themselves once we got to the table. Should I just record them secretly? I know it's the only way I'll get any kind of record of the interview, but it seems rude. Surreptitiously, I reach down into my pocket and poke the recorder switch. Maybe it's a little dirty, and I'm praying I hit the right button. But the Whitmans started playing dirty when they turned our pre-dinner interview into 10 minutes of introductions and getting to know yous, with Andy and I the only ones in the spotlight. So far, all I have been able to do is verify a few things that strengthen our case for the doc being involved in the mistletoe incident. He's the big Christmas fan. He and his son are wealthy, well-connected, and secretive, and he's been celebrating for the whole 2 weeks that the mistletoe has been up. But nothing he says gives a clue as to how he's doing it. Do you think that the mistletoe will go away once you stop your nightly celebrations? I cut in. Andy looks up at me in mild confusion, but then nods. It's a little shady, but direct questions are getting us nowhere. Well, if the people responsible for decking the town have any respect for tradition, it won't stay up after dawn on the 6th. His eyes twinkle. It's the closest he's come after several tries to admitting outright that he's the one behind all of this. Andy and I exchange excited looks. It took me 2 hours this afternoon to put up the deer cams around town while she tried again to nap. They're on continuous record after dark for the next 2 days. If something happens tomorrow night, we're going to catch it. You have said that you have nothing to do with this incident, Dr. Whitman, but there are indications that you might not be telling the whole truth. I offer a polite smile. The one he returns to me is tinged with mischief. I keep my tone calmly earnest. But let's work around that. Instead of asking how you did this, I'll just ask if you have any idea how it was done. Jack lets out a soft laugh and elbows his father gently. Whitman chuckles again, appearing amused by the way I hedged around the question. I keep my head up and watch him across the table. Please let this thing be recording the conversation properly. The doc considers his answer as the moments crawl past. Andy's hand finds mine under the table, and we clasp them tightly in mutual support. Well, from what you have told me, there was no sign of a group large enough to get the job done moving around before dawn on the 23rd of December. Nor were there any footprints left behind. Nor have footprints been left behind on new snow when a sprig is replaced. It is intriguingly odd. He tugs on his beard thoughtfully. Yes, Dr. Whitman, but how could it possibly have been done if no one was walking on the ground? Andy's voice is almost pleading now. And please don't say flying reindeer. No, of course not, Jack chimes in. You would have seen the hoof prints. Unless you didn't actually examine the rooftops for them? Jack is really not helping right now. I shoot him a look and he just grins with feigned innocence. Nothing so fancy, I suspect, Dr. Whitman says musingly. You can cover snow tracks with a broom, after all, especially when there are layers of fallen snow and blowing wind to help you out. Also, footprints would not be needed or a ladder for the tall eaves if someone drove past with people standing in the bed of a truck. The doctor's smile is infuriating. It might be implausible, but it's not impossible. I sit back. I know what he's hinting at, and the disappointment on Andy's face angers me a little. Maybe. But that's a pretty hard sell. This mistletoe appeared inside a locked church and high above its doors and eaves, and it's all throughout the graveyard, so there was no driving a truck through. Seems to me a church would be immune to magic, being on sacred ground and all, Jack points out. Maybe St. Nicholas gets a pass. He and the priest have the same boss, after all. Andy looks at him challengingly. The doc and his son both let out peals of laughter, the elders loud and booming filling the room. Even the servants titter a little. Well said. Well said. Jack snickers as he looks between the two of us. Well, I can't say that you don't do your homework on these things. Andy smiles with something like relief, and I clear my throat. Anyway, none of the scenarios we have come up with get us any closer to sorting out a mundane way that all of this could have been coordinated and carried out in secret. Even if you're not responsible, you're the local Christmas expert. You must know something. I know some things, and perhaps you're right, Whitman concedes. Perhaps something supernatural did occur. He takes a swallow of his hot spiced wine and then gestures with his mug. The problem is that in the end, you're never going to find anything that reveals the whole truth behind this in a way that can be scientifically proven. Not even with all of your tech or all the scientists on your payroll back home. But why? And he asks softly. I hate the disappointed note in her voice. Because people won't believe, Jack cuts in. Even when someone tells you exactly who they are and why they do what they do, you have trouble believing yourself. I look down. I can't see if the recorder's going, but I speak as if it is. Debunkers pit science against finding a wider view of reality, instead of aiding in the search for it. I'm trying to do the opposite. The doc shakes his head sadly. But science isn't advanced enough yet. Humanity may not be either. This is simultaneously the deepest and the craziest conversation I have ever been in. Please let this thing be recording. Anyway, you'll certainly get an interesting book out of your trip, and hopefully you'll get some new ideas. And even if you don't quite get what you want with that, you'll find that your greater aims here have been fulfilled. It was never entirely about the investigation, now was it? What the hell? Andy and I exchange glances, and I cough politely. That's not actually accurate, Doc. Oh, it's perfectly accurate. If the two of you didn't chase the paranormal, you would find something else and pursue it with just as much passion. It could be rock climbing, bird photography, amateur archaeology, or community theater. He looks so smug that it pisses me off, but what he says next takes all the wind from my sails at once. What makes it special for the two of you is that you are doing it together. I look at Andy, who's staring between the two of us in amazement, her cheeks so pink that I'd feel sorry for her if I wasn't so stunned. I always knew the exact reason why I've stayed in the business of paranormal investigations, and it looks like the last of Andy's denial just got burned away. Oh, she mumbles. I can see his beard twitching slightly as he tries to hide his amusement within it. Oh, chin up, young lady. That doesn't mean that you won't have any success. It just means that if either one of you left your partnership, the other would not continue with this work. He winks. Tell me I'm wrong. I can feel my ears prickling. But I can't say honestly that Whitman is wrong. I just can't understand his interest in us, or his motive for constantly bringing the topic back to us and our relationship, no matter how hard we try to keep things focused. Maybe he sees a lot more than I thought. Nobody said you were. I don't know how I'm keeping my voice quite so calm. But that's not why we're doing this interview. Yes, I understand. He takes a few more bites from his plate, his face thoughtful, taking his time. Of course it isn't. I think that what my dear old dad is trying to say is, Jack breaks with surprising gentleness, some things in life are more important than trying to scientifically prove what is currently unprovable. And I'm with him in the belief that your time is best spent with each other, regardless of how you choose to spend it. We answer with awkward smiles. The conversation turns towards some old stories of our adventures together, which we struggle through. My heart's pounding, and from the look on her face, Andy has been affected just as strongly. I don't regret it afterward. My partner, on the other hand. I can't believe those people, Andy mutters as we drive back down the mountain. I was looking for an interview on the Whitmans' involvement in this prank, and instead we spent more time talking to them about our relationship than anything else. I don't answer right away. It is very dark, even with the snowdrifts reflecting my headlights, and I drive carefully, wary of picking up too much speed on the slippery road. Worse, it looks like there's another snowstorm threatening. The sky between the bare trees is a starless, charcoal-colored haze. So the old guy's a hopeless romantic. Nobody loves Christmas that much and isn't a romantic. I hear that silence start to stretch out and let out a hard huff of air. Andy. It's not perfect and it was awkward, but we did get some quotes from him that will go well with it all. There's so much more than that. I can feel the understanding growing between us now, the realization that we have too much unfinished business. Maybe I'm about to get that second chance I've always longed for. If that's the case, I swear I'm not letting things fall apart again. Yeah, it's just. She goes quiet as I slow down for a steep curve. It feels like he's been teasing us this entire time. Teasing us. Or making it clear that some things are none of our business. I keep my voice kind. I can tell she's totally exhausted. But why did he have to invade our privacy like that? She frets slightly. Why not? We were trying our best to invade his. Hopeless romantic or not, he also wanted to discourage us from putting our noses in too deep. She flops back against her seat in exasperation. But why? Would it be so bad for humanity to know conclusively that some sweet romantic display of magic is actually real? I couldn't accuse the mysterious pair of being malicious or selfish. So what could it be? Maybe if people know too much about how he does this stuff, they'll try to stop him. Her eyes go slightly wide. Do you think that's it? He's afraid he'll get the wrong kind of attention. And they'll disrupt what he's doing. We turn onto the road leading into town, over one of the two bridges that bracket it. That makes as much sense as anything else I can come up with. That leaves me wondering how we handle this responsibly. This isn't the kind of event we want to discourage, especially in a place like New York. She relaxes, seeming very comforted by the idea that there's a good reason behind the Whitmans' evasiveness. Yeah, around here, folks need all the Christmas magic they can find. Life is tough and the weather's brutal. I drive us into town as the first flakes start to fall. Ah, here we go again. Glad we left when we did. Yeah. She rubs her face and then glances at me as I stop to let a snowplow pass on the cross street. Do you think we should take the deer cams down then? I frown. Come on, sweetheart, you're the big believer. Even if we could have just as much fun hiking or spelunking or something, it doesn't mean you should give this up. You do love this stuff. We'll just have to figure out how to use what we find out tomorrow night. She turns a game smile to me and nods, sighing. I know you're right. I do. But it gets really, really tough to keep believing. For a moment, her tone reminds me of earlier when she talked about needing to protect herself, from disappointment, from humiliation, from loss. Just like in love. I put a hand on her shoulder. You have more than enough proof to keep believing, sweetheart. At this point, we both do. You might not have enough proof for anyone else, but at least you and I are on the same page. Whatever this is, it is real, and it is very special. That makes her smile as she gazes at me. Well, you're definitely right about that.
Andy. Let's just check the audio and video in the morning, David yawns as we lug our stuff up the stairs. I'm thinking cocoa and bed. I'm thinking cocoa and bed too, I say thoughtfully as the biting cold wears off. I'm not sure we're quite on the same page as far as bed goes though. And I need to fix that now. I know now that bed was where I fell short in our relationship. He never got good at giving me what I needed, but I never got good at asking. We heat the leftover cocoa in the electric kettle while we peel off our outerwear and boots. The cold has deepened outside, but for some reason the walk back from the parking lot didn't leave me chilled the same way it did this morning. I'm fine. I'm also on a mission. I hate to say it, but inappropriate as it was, the doc had a serious point or two. My socks are actually sweaty from being in the heavy boots and socks. How did I nearly freeze earlier? I'm getting used to the idea that I may never know, but it's a bitter pill. So it's better to think about other things. Much more pleasant things. About us. Poor David sounds so hopeful that I have to bite back a laugh. Yeah, us and ghost hunting. I love the chase, David, I do, but I wouldn't bother with it if I wasn't doing it with you. It takes all my courage to look him in the eyes and admit that, but it's time. He stares at me as my heart thunders, and then he drops his boots with a clunk. Outside, the wind rises to a wail, shaking the windows slightly, but I barely notice. For a brief moment, the sound nags at me slightly, like there's something I'm forgetting. Then I'm in his arms again, and I forget everything but his kiss. The first times we ever kissed were pure magic, even if they were clumsy with enthusiasm. It's like that now, except for the way he slides his fingers up the back of my skull to grasp my hair firmly by the roots. I whimper, shocked and excited. He teases at my tongue with his until I slowly start to respond. His other arm is around my waist, holding me firmly as I slide my hands up his chest. I hold him so tightly, like I'll never let him go. He's still a big kid in some ways, but not in the ways that used to drive me crazy. I'm tired of stopping myself from trying again by telling myself that people don't change. He has. It just took a holiday miracle and a life-threatening crisis to really show me how much. Seducing him took less work than I thought it would. But finally, we both run out of breath, and he breaks the kiss and backs off slightly, looking down at me as we pant mutely. "You have no idea how glad I am to hear you say that," he mutters huskily, his breath blowing warm air on my tingling lips. "I want you to stay," I tell him firmly. This time when he kisses me, he lifts me as well, no small feat since I'm no small woman. Startled, I throw my arms around his neck and let out a sharp whimper against his mouth. He carries me to the bed, and I flash back to this morning, when I was too distracted by cold to notice that he did the same then. Before he used his body to warm me without making a single move outside of a sleepy kiss. It's very promising. David called me an Amazon once, and I'd never forgotten that comment, but as he stares down at me hungrily, the last of my self-consciousness starts to dissolve. He likes my tall body with its bountiful curves and powerful thighs. He's seen it before. The touch of his gaze doesn't make me uncomfortable. Anything but. His worshipful look as he takes me in from head to toe makes me feel like a goddess. He really has filled out nicely under those woolens, his body still lean but well-muscled, his treasure trail a little thicker but his belly just as flat. The wind screams outside the windows and the lights flicker as he joins me in bed. Again, I feel like I'm forgetting something. But this is more important. I push it to the back of my head and wrap my arms around him. For just a moment, I tense up, because when I embrace him, I wonder if he'll pull the same uncomfortable trick he used to and push his way inside me before I'm quite ready. But he holds back instead, his hands running over me almost too slowly as he explores my body in a new way. He has a strangely serious look on his face as he caresses me, his hands warm and firm on my skin. My eyes close, and I let myself relax under his hands while he keeps up his caresses, taking his time. The pleasure shocked me, and now I'm shocked by my sudden exhaustion, even as I feel ready to float away on a cloud of bliss. I sway over him, chest heaving for air. Somehow, he manages to catch me before I can collapse, and I slide down limply as I lay down over him. My knees pop as I dismount from him. I'm speechless, tingling, barely noticing the brief pain. "Do you like that, sweetheart?" he purrs in my ear as I lie trembling on his chest. "Aha," I manage to mumble, and he laughs. Good. It's David's laugh that wakes me hours later, well after dawn. I sit up, sleepy and confused, and see him standing half-dressed, long johns still unbuttoned and loose around him as he faces the window, a window that is covered in streaky ice. "You've got to be kidding me," he snorts as I blink past him at the icy view. An ice storm on top of everything? I grab my robe and pull it on, moving to his side. My legs are wobbly and a little sore, but I'm so relaxed that I barely care. I've never felt better about rethinking my stance on anything in my life. Ice storm. I fish my phone out of my jacket pocket and check the weather report. Not much of one. It moved on hours ago. They should have the roads cleared and in good condition again before lunch. "Well, that's good at least," he sighs. "But there's just one problem." A shock goes through me. The deer cams. We manage to do the smart thing and bundle up before we go to check the 6 cameras that have put up around town. We walk out to check them arm in arm, as much to help me keep my balance on the icy sidewalk as anything. People are already wandering the streets on their morning errands, but the crowds are thinner. Think the tourists are hiding inside until they salt the sidewalks? I ask as we move toward the first camera site. Probably a good bet. We reach the first shop that let us install a camera under their eaves, and he grabs his pen light to check it. Well, this one's intact, but the light's off. Cold may have drained the battery. He takes it down, and we both gape in shock as he opens the battery casing to find it full of ice crystals. Or killed the battery for good. Holy cow. Let's check the others. I'm really starting to worry now, though the fear has no real teeth to it anymore. That might have something to do with the company, though. My worries are well-founded, as it turns out. The second shop had a leak in its awning that we didn't notice, and we find the camera literally frozen inside a large icicle. 2 more cameras broke loose in the high wind. We find them broken, lenses and casings shattered. The rest have battery problems like the first. Well, looks like the mistletoe will be down tomorrow with no magic involved at all. David sighs as he looks around, fists on hips. The bag of broken cameras hangs from his side. He doesn't seem bothered by this last setback. Warm fronts moving in. It will rise above freezing tomorrow. They'll all just fall off on their own. And this time no one will replace them. He wraps his arms around me, sighing. Look, we're done here. Let's go home. I have an unopened bottle of New Year's champagne with our names on it. I look around again, a sad, wistful feeling in my heart, like that of a kid at bedtime on Christmas night. There's always next year, I say, half to myself. Then I look up at him, and hug him back briefly. Let's go.
David.
As it turned out, the last interview didn't record. Our enlightening dinner conversation with the Whitmans had been meant for our eyes and ears only. For all my usual, careful attention to detail, I had somehow forgotten to charge the audio recorder's built-in battery. Instead, we've got a lovely video of Andy and I talking about how we fell in love and how much we enjoy our work together, surreptitiously shot by that sneaky rascal Jack and left for me like a gift. I think I owe him some champagne. It took us only a month to put the book together. It's being edited now, with several breathtaking shots of the town and the mountains around it being worked in. The one thing we were able to do, besides talk to people and record a few interviews, was take a lot of pictures. But the video, the interview, the attempts to interview Jack, all that stuff either just leads to more questions and greater mysteries or exposes personal revelations about us. Although I've edited it together nicely, I still don't know whether we should release it on our website. It's not just that parts of it are very personal. I have no problem shouting to the hills that I got my second chance, and that the two of us are going strong as lovers and work partners both. I naturally want to check with Andy first, but that's not the only thing restraining me. It's the rest of it. The baffled but amused residents, the retired movie star with his new lover and tiny child, the Huffy priest's daughter and her enormous biker boyfriend, laughing Jack saying he's Jack Frost himself. It's all personal and weird as hell. How much of it will appeal to the public at large? More importantly, how much of it is right to release? I sit back from my computer, rolling my stiff shoulders and standing up to walk out of my office. My penthouse is arranged around a central atrium with a hothouse inside. Beyond its glass walls, I can see the bed where Andy is still curled up sleeping. I exhausted her again. The thought still makes me proud. Amazing what a little effort, patience, and communication can do. I move over to one of my enormous insulated glass windows, this one overlooking the fenced deck with its covered outdoor pool and jacuzzi. Beyond it, the city sits frozen in the grip of winter, millions of lights gleaming in the icy dark. I tighten my smoking jacket closer around me and go to pour myself a brandy before returning to my desk. I play part of Jack's interview again. My name's Jack Frost, as I told you before. I'm ageless. I live at the North Pole with my father St. Nicholas, and my job is bringing the fall colors and the winter frosts. Damn it, that sounds like satire, I grumble under my breath, sitting back in my chair. No superhuman being would actually walk up to us and introduce himself like that. And even if he did, no one would ever believe it. Which means that we can't use the interview. It will kill any credibility this investigation has. I rub my face in exasperation. You did that on purpose, didn't you, Jack? I can't really hate him anymore though, even if this shit frustrates me. He did help Andy and I get back together, even if he did it with a stolen kiss. A flash of movement on the balcony catches my attention. I could have sworn I saw a man-sized figure in a dark coat. But when I look again, there's no one there. There's something I didn't notice before, hanging from the eaves. And a mark on the glass. I stare. Then I grab my camera, after checking the battery, and quickly take a few photos. I'm smiling like crazy. We probably can't use these either, except for ourselves. She's still going to love them. I look back once more as I quit my computer and get up to head back to bed. They're still there, my evidence, real evidence, and something like an answer. Even if no one would ever believe us. A curlicue of frost shaped like a fern frond on the insulated window, and a frozen, dried bit of mistletoe fastened to our balcony overhang 16 stories above the ground.
The end. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. Audio copyright 2023 BFA Publishing. Please like and subscribe to support this channel. It helps more than you know.